Hey guys, it's Zara. For today's video, I will be doing my December wrap-up. Now, in the month of December, I actually read a grand total of 13 books, which is a very good amount. I don't think it was the best reading month I had this year. I don't know what month, but I know one month I think I might have read more books than that, but I was able to meet my Goodreads goal of 100 books, which I'm very happy about. And I'm very sorry if you can hear the jingle of my hat. But do you like it? It's a BTS hat. My friend got it for me for Christmas, and I'm very happy because it's... yes, but anyway, so I'm going to get into some statistics of what I read this month, and then we will get into the books that I read. Now, for this, I will do least rated to highest rated books. So, yeah, let's get into some statistics. So, since I read 13 books this month, 7 books were written by women and 6 were written by men. I read 3 middle grade, 5 adult, 3 young adult, 4 nonfiction, 8 graphic novels, and 1 manga. I gave 5 books 5 stars, 2 books 4.5 stars, 2 books 4 stars, 1 book 3.5 stars, 1 book 3 stars, and 2 books 1 star. Which grand totaling is, for pages read, that made no sense, is 2,494 books, which is very good. But again, I think I've read more in a month before, but at the same time, I did read quite a lot of graphic novels this month, which I don't mind because I do really like reading graphic novels, and I do find that I'm getting more into reading graphic novels instead of actual novels, but it doesn't matter because they're good anyway. So let's get on into my first book that I read. That was my least rated book. So the first book that I read was I Am Not Here by Gigi, and this book is about a young woman who is wandering through the city and is torn between her family and her independence, and she's rekindling memories of her past and stuff through a camera lens, which is honestly not what I got when I read this book, because I had no clue what I read when I read this, especially because it's a very short book to begin with, and it's a graphic novel, and there was like really no reading involved in this, so it was kind of like one of those wordless graphic novels, but at the same time there were words. But when I was finished with it, I was just like, what did I just read? And I even let my friend read it after me because I read it during school, and even she had the exact same feeling. She was like, what? So it's just the only thing I liked about this was the art style, and that's what got me into giving it a 1 out of 5 stars, because the art was beautiful. The rest of it was just like, what? So yeah, I gave this 1 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was What You Must Think of Me by Emily Ford, and this is a memoir about Emily's life with social anxiety. Now, the reason I didn't like this was I just didn't feel like it was actually a memoir and stuff. Like, I had to use this book for a writing, because in my school I have a writer's craft class, and we were doing an assignment about like writing memoirs and stuff, so we had to choose a book that would work with the memoir we're writing. So I chose this book because I thought it would work because I have social anxiety as well. I just found that it did not work for what I wanted it to be for, and it just really felt more like a self-help book than an actual memoir. Like, when she was talking about her life and stuff, it was very interesting, but at the same time, she really wasn't doing much of talking about herself, if you can understand that. And if you hear stuff in the background, it's my siblings. They won't shut the fuck up. Another interesting thing about the book was in, like, the end, she would have glossaries about what terms meant. She had resources for, like, hotlines to call, stuff like that, which was definitely interesting as well. But in the end, I gave this 1 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Regular Guy by Sarah Weeks, and this book is about a guy who thinks his parents are not his parents because he's the complete opposite to his parents, so he wants to know if he was actually adopted, so he goes in search of finding his real parents. That's literally the entire book. So I thought this book was okay, but what I find odd was like how he just realized that, oh, maybe I'm adopted, maybe they're not my real parents. I just thought, why didn't you think that maybe later on? Because his parents and him, like from what I read from the book, they're like, maybe he could be adopted. Like, his parents are very interesting, to say the least. So, and he's very more laid back, I guess, boring and stuff. So one thing I did not know about this book is it's actually the first book in a series. And to be honest, I don't think I'm going to read the rest of the series. I just don't really have an interest. I might, but this is a very old book, so who knows if I'll actually be able to find the series and if my library will actually have it. But yeah, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, so the next book is Snot Girl by Brian Lee O'Malley, and this book is about Lottie Person. I always want to say Pearson, but Person, who's an aspiring fashion blogger. And she has a secret which she tries to hide, which is she has very bad allergies, like very bad, and she just doesn't want people to know about it because apparently it's not good or something like that. Just like, okay, girl. And after she meets a new friend, blogger friend, it makes her life turn to the... just a lot of things happen after that. Lottie into a very mental and emotional spiral. I guess that's how you would describe it. Like, this book is like more than that. Like, so many things happened in this book that did make me interested, but at the same time, I did find it like an like it was okay and stuff. Like, this book was either good or bad. Like, it was kind of one of those books, like, sometimes you liked it, sometimes you didn't, and that's kind of how I felt. Like, it was a mixed feeling book. The main character, Lottie, I just found she could be very annoying at times. It's just like, girl, stop. Just like, okay. But the ending had me on the edge of my seat. Like, literally, I was like, girl, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? So, that was definitely one good thing about it. So, I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was Paper Girls Volume 3 by Brian K. Vaughan. Now, I'm not going to actually get into what the third volume's about because, spoilers, duh. So the first book is about 4 12-year-old girls who are newspaper delivery girls. I couldn't say that before. In 1988 during Halloween, and they pawn something that definitely they shouldn't have, and it pretty much just spirals from there, and each book is about something very odd, and it just keeps getting odder and odder, but at the same time, odder. Anyways, it's like they encounter things that are very dangerous in every volume, but obviously, like most, they make it through from the 3 books. But yeah, so volume 3, I very much enjoyed the art. It was definitely a lot nicer than the other volumes. Like, I found the art in this one a little bit more nicer. The story in this definitely was very interesting. I feel like this one was the most interesting one that I've read so far out of the 3 volumes that I have read so far, and I believe volume 4 is out. My library does not have it. But yeah, the character that was in this, who I don't think is going to be another thing, I guess you could say she's more of a side character, but I did find her very interesting and her story very sad, especially because of what's happening and stuff, but she was definitely still an interesting person, and yeah, that's all I really got to say about this. I definitely feel like this one, out of the other 2, I think this is my more favorite one out of the 3 volumes I've read. So, yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Park Bench by Christophe Chabot. I bet I said his name wrong, so oops. So the story of this is, the way that Goodreads describes it is, we watch people pass, stop, meet, return, wait, and play out the strange and funny choreography of life. Literally all it is. And this is one of those wordless graphic novels, which I didn't know going into it, because when I do read books, I really don't know anything when I go into them, which I do like more because I just feel like I get more out of the book. But yeah, so I found this to be such a sweet book. It was, at first I was confused as to what was going on, and I was like, oh wait, are they, like, it was kind of confusing at first, but like, it didn't take long for me to understand what was going on, which happens all the time, because, you know, I get confused by everything. So, yeah, but, once I did start to understand what was happening, I did start to like this book a lot more, and the art in this, oh, the art in this is absolutely beautiful. That was definitely one thing about this that I really liked, was the art style. It was definitely beautiful, and yeah, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I definitely recommend it. So the next book I read was Hostage by Guy DeLisi, and I will read off what Goodreads has as a description, like usual, and I know I'm going to pronounce some words wrong because I'm really bad at pronouncing words. But anyway, so in the middle of the night in 1997, Doctors Without Borders admitted, I don't know what that word is. I cannot say it. Christophe Andre, why am I so bad at pronouncing words? Anyways, was kidnapped by armed men and taken away to an unknown destination in the Caucasus region. Wow. I'll definitely have it down below because I'm really bad at pronouncing it. But anyways, for 3 months, Andre was kept handcuffed in solitary confinement with little to survive on and almost no contact with the outside world. Best description you're going to get from me. But anyways, so definitely this book's a lot more than that. So this story that you should know is, it took the author apparently 15 years to write this story, which honestly made this story even more interesting to know that it was actually a true story and that it took the author such a long time to write. Another thing you should know is this is a very repetitive book because of the fact that he's in a confinement for 3 months, and it's just like the same routine over and over again. So you should know that if you don't like it. But I do feel like the fact that it was very repetitive really helped the story because it showed him slowly getting more not really crazy or insane, but like it's starting to show how he was starting it was starting to show how he really just couldn't take it anymore and he really wanted to leave. Like, it was just showing how his mind was slowly, I guess, going insane and stuff because of the fact that it was the same thing over and over again, and he was locked up and stuff. So yeah, I very much enjoyed the art style of this. It was definitely very interesting, and I was always rooting for Christopher, spelled interesting, to be able to go back and stuff. Like, I was always like, just that little slip over, he was just about to get out, you're like, oh yes, yes, yes. And then it wouldn't happen until, like, obviously it finally did. So it was definitely very sad to see Kristoff go through what he did go through, because during this time his sister was getting married and so many things were happening at the same time while he was in this confinement for 3 months. So you're just like rooting for him to see if he can get out and stuff. So it was definitely very upsetting, but at the same time is also very interesting, and I do recommend it, and I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read was Will I Sleep by David Alexander Robertson, and to describe this book, I'll read off my page because this Goodreads description is a lot better than what I could come up with. So, May, a young teenage girl, traverses the city streets, finding keepsakes in different places along her journey. When May and her, I don't know how to say this word, it's like Cookman? I definitely said that wrong. Make these keepsakes into a necklace, it opens a world of danger and fantasy. While May fights against a terrible reality, she learns that there is a strength in the spirits of those that have passed. But will that strength be able to save her? A story of tragedy and beauty, Will I See illuminates the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Best way to describe it, and this story is just, oh my god, it's very good. So this was definitely a very eye-opening book, especially on the topic of indigenous women and how it's still something that's going on and it's something we need to fix. And it's just, this story was definitely very sad, especially the art. Like, the art could get very gruesome. It could be very it just really pulls at your heartstrings, and it makes you realize what's happening in the world and what we really need to fix and stuff. Very sad what's happening with Indigenous women, and obviously a lot of other people as well, but I definitely think that people should read this. But at the same time, I did find this book a little hard, it was definitely hard to read, but in the beginning I did find it a little boring, and I just didn't like it enough to give it a full 5 stars, so I did give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. But that does not mean I do not recommend this. I definitely still recommend this. The next book I read was Under the Bed Fred by Linda Bailey, and this book is pretty much a story about a boy who befriends the monster under his bed. Literally, that's it. But I did find the monster Fred to be very cute and funny, and the relationship between Fred and Leo, who was the boy who befriends Fred, who is the monster, to be very sweet and cute. I just find this whole book to be sweet and cute, and the art style was, again, sweet and cute. Like, this was just a very cute book, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you want to read this to your child, or a child wants to read it, because it is a child's book, and I do very much recommend it because it's very good. So, yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Spinning by Tilly Walden. I hope that's how you say her name. And this book is a memoir that captures what it's like to come of age, come out, and come to terms with leaving behind everything you used to know. Now, when I went into this book, I did not know that it was a memoir, and that didn't, what's the word? That didn't make me like the book less when I did find out it was a memoir. It just made me more interested, especially because I did find the story interesting to begin with. The story at first was a little boring to begin with, but it didn't take long for me to actually get interested into this. So, and I forgot to mention this, but there is trigger warnings for depression, sexual harassment, homophobia, child neglect, bullying, and a car accident does happen, just so you know. It was definitely interesting to see how Tilly was getting less and less interested in skating and stuff, because it was pretty much her whole entire life. Like, that's what this book's about, mostly talking about her being a skater, and then it also talks about different things that she's going through as well, coming to terms with her sexuality and stuff. So the art style in this was okay. I didn't really much enjoy it, but other than that, the next book I read was Malalas Magic Pencil by Malala Yousaf, and this book is a book about where Malala wishes for a magic pencil so she can help people, but as she gets older, she realizes that she doesn't need a magic pencil to help her. She can help people all on her own, and it also teaches children to stand up for what they believe in. I feel like this was kind of like a children's picture book of her memoir, which I have read. I read it 2015? I don't know. I think I read it the year it came out, which was, I don't know when. But anyways, so I did very much enjoy this. I do like Malala, especially what she stands for and stuff. And I love this book so much. I just loved everything about it, from what Malala is doing, or was doing in the book, the art style, and how the book was also talking about, like, telling children to stand up for what they believe in. And I definitely recommend this book, especially to read this to children. And yeah, I obviously gave this 5 out of 5 stars. And the art in this is also very beautiful, so, which I think I already mentioned. But yeah, I definitely recommend this. And now we are on to the last book, finally. And that is Queer There and Everywhere by Sarah Pager? I don't know how to say her name. So the best way you can describe this book is, this is the first ever LGBTQ history book for young adults. Literally. That's like the tagline on Goodreads. And that's literally what this book is about. So I didn't actually know anything about this book going in. I just thought it looked interesting. I flipped through and I'm like, oh, okay, this looks interesting. And I'm very happy I read this book because it was very interesting. And going into this, I only knew maybe 1 or 2 of the people that Sarah was talking about. But I learned about 21 more people who, I guess you could say, like, changed history, especially for LGBTQ plus rights and stuff. And it was definitely very interesting, and I just really recommend this if you want to read it. So that's all I could say, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I think this was the best book I read in December. So yeah, I hope you guys like this. I'm assuming it's going to be a very long video, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Till next time.